Someone once told me that coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. You know, the odd things that can happen throughout our life, that when you look back on it, you realize how different your circumstances would have been had you made a different choice. Like when, as a recent high school graduate, a simple trip to the store allowed me to meet the girl who would become my wife. Or the job transfer to Connecticut, which brought us to a new pastor and parish, and who would awaken in me a vocation to the diaconate. In his reflection on today's gospel, St. Gregory the Great opined that it was no mere coincidence that St. Thomas just happened to be absent that first Easter evening when Jesus appeared to the other apostles in the upper room. Indeed, it was by God's design that St. Thomas was elsewhere when the disciples saw him, now alive in his glorified body. How fearful and ashamed they must have been after everything that had gone down over the last 3 days and by their individual actions. Yet what was Jesus' reaction when he saw them? Peace. 3 times in today's gospel, we heard Jesus say, "Peace be with you." At the same time, the words belief and believe are heard 6 times, which makes today's gospel so significant to us as we celebrate Divine Mercy Sunday, which, thanks to Jesus' revelation to St. Faustina and the courageous decision of Pope St. John Paul II to dedicate this, the second Sunday of Easter, to God's infinite mercy and forgiveness. Today takes on even more special significance, as this is our first Sunday that we celebrate without Pope Francis, a pontiff who throughout his 12 years on the throne of St. Peter exemplified the healing touch of Jesus in word and action. Now, I am privileged to have seen Pope Francis back in 2019, just ahead of the pandemic, while I was on a pilgrimage to Rome. We attended his Wednesday audience, and I distinctly remember his presence and his demeanor, his smile, and how he captured the room with gentleness and compassion. To be in the presence of the Vicar of Christ is a memory that I will always cherish. Now, it is no mere coincidence that Pope Francis went home to God the day after Easter. His pontificate, indeed his entire priestly vocation, was dedicated to making Jesus visible in a world which has more than its share of evil, distress, and sadness. He was the Archbishop of the Ghetto in Argentina, and as the Holy Father traveled the world embodying the love, compassion, and mercy of God, he tirelessly made Jesus risen and personal to everyone he met. In his final homily, which was read last Sunday by Cardinal Camastri, he reflected on the Easter gospel image of Peter and John running to the Lord's tomb, which had been reported as empty by Mary Magdalene. The image of the disciples running is an image for us all, as Pope Francis wants each one of us together to constantly look for Jesus in our life. We must look for him without ceasing, the Holy Father stated. He is risen. Jesus is alive and present everywhere if we continue to look for him. As people of faith, you and I are all Easter people, and as such must seek his presence in our life, not just here in church, but also when we leave this sacred space. He can be found in our homes, in our neighborhood, at work, and in school. Jesus is found in the homeless stranger on the street and in the migrant who has come simply looking for a safer and better life. The endearing legacy of Pope Francis can be found in how he made Jesus visible and how he modeled for us the Jesus we heard in today's gospel with words of peace. In his appearance on the Today Show, the morning of Holy Thursday, Cardinal Dolan of New York spoke about the upcoming Triduum and Easter season as a period of transition, like winter to spring, a time of renewal and hope in the resurrection. The Cardinal stated that most people believe in God, but that hope was a totally different story. Faith says that we believe in God, but hope means that we believe in a God who makes and keeps his promises. That's something good to remember today, despite sadness and uncertainty in the world and in the church. That we have a God who means what he said, that he will always be with us, and that he will continue guiding his church into the future. Today is Divine Mercy Sunday, and it's our day to recall just how merciful, how loving and forgiving God really is. And no matter what we do, however many times we turn our back on him, he is never far from us, always ready to greet us and with open arms to welcome us home. What we celebrate today is what we heard Jesus say in the epistle: I am alive forever and ever. We continue to experience in our lifetime what we heard in the Acts of the Apostles, many signs and wonders, if we continue to look for them among the many coincidences of everyday life. Now, our gospel today featured someone who I think should be considered a hero, someone we all should be grateful for. St. Thomas was a human like all of us. While we all have doubts and questions from time to time, few of us end up with so public a designation as Doubting Thomas to live with. But thanks to his presence on the evening of this day that we're celebrating right now, we all received a very special blessing from Jesus. Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed. That is the blessing conferred on us and everyone down through the ages who believe despite not having been an eyewitness or having touched his wounds. How fortunate indeed we are. Now, as we come to the end of the octave of Easter, may we all continue to give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His love is everlasting.